So game 1 of the NBA Finals is in the books, and probably didn't really go the way the Dallas Mavericks envisioned it.
I don't think it did, but for the Boston Celtics, things basically went perfectly. They were shooting the lights out. Kristaps Porzingis, he looked more than healthy. Dude looked fresh as hell out there. Tatum was bad, honestly, and they still blew out the Mavericks.
Before we start talking about game 1 of the NBA Finals, if you haven't already, make sure to leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So a quick little side rant before we start talking about the actual game. NBA, can we please put the Larry O'Brien logo back on the floor? Like, I get players apparently didn't like it because they were slipping on it. Okay, make it out of something else then. The midseason tournament proved it can be done. You can put a big trophy at the middle of the court. Like, it made the finals feel special, created some iconic shots, and the fact that it's not back yet is really fucking stupid.
I mean, I'm getting tired of everyone overusing the word like aura when it comes to everything.
But it had aura.
It 100% gave the finals like a crazy aura, just having like a massive Larry O'Brien trophy. Yeah, everyone wants it back, and usually Adam Silver, you know, is kind of in tune with these things. Like, if something's trending on social media or there's something people want, usually he'll implement it. I don't know why they haven't brought this back, because like you said, if they're doing all that bullshit for the in-season tournament, they can bring this back. My one theory, honestly, then they can't add all those YouTube TV like advertisements on the court. That's my theory. It takes away from the advertisements, but whatever. Bring it back. We need it.
It pains me that your theory is probably correct.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident on that one.
All right, so the game itself, more or less Celtic domination from the very beginning. I mean, the Mavericks led very briefly in the first quarter. They had a 15-14 lead, but then Derek White hit back-to-back three-pointers, and for a long time after that, it felt like the Mavericks were completely out of it. There was a brief moment in the third quarter, which we'll get into, but standout performer from the first quarter, Kristaps Porzingis. Dude had a month off, and he looked healthy, rested. He was on fire in this first quarter.
Yeah, I was watching him. I'm like, is that calf gonna bother him? Like, is he just coming back because it's the finals? Like, you never know, especially with like those strains, those calf strains.
Calf strains can be pretty scary injuries.
I mean, there was that KD one that led to his Achilles going, and obviously that's a way different situation, but still, I was paying attention, and he just completely changed the game. Like, it's crazy the Celtics got him and got back picks for Marcus Smart. Like, you send out Marcus Smart, you get Kristaps Porzingis, who looks like an all-star tonight. I don't get it, man. Like, come on, how did they finesse that one?
Because they have a good GM.
They have a great GM,
and it's remained to be seen if the Blazers do.
They do not.
Jaylen Brown kept it up with a few poster dunks in the second quarter, and the Celtics got the lead all the way up to 28 points. In the third quarter, though, the Mavericks, they started to cut into the lead. Luka hit a big three, got it down to 8. He starts, you know, mean mugging at the crowd. And at this point, I'm getting really excited, because not only did I pick the Mavericks, so I'm kind of rooting for them, but I'm also like, oh yeah, we could call Saturday's video the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. That's a very enticing title. And then the Celtics stomped on my dreams with a 14-0 run.
Yeah, that run, like, first, Porzingis again, he cut to the basket, got that dunk. Jaylen Brown had a couple just huge blocks during that stretch. Tatum hit that 1-3. Huge response from the Celtics there, because after that, I didn't think the Mavericks were going to come back. They were still down 8 points, like you said, but I thought we'd at least get a close game the rest of the way. The momentum had completely shifted. You'd kind of felt in the crowd like they were getting a bit antsy too. Plus, the Celtics team just has a history of kind of like disappointing you, I guess you could say, but they just completely slammed the door on the Mavericks. Huge run, and then after that run, it was game over after that.
Yeah, Celtics win 107-89. They take a 1-0 lead in the series, and let's go over the key players in this game. Obviously, we mentioned it earlier. Porzingis, the standout of this game. First game back in over a month. He was a lightning bolt of energy on offense and defense coming off the bench. I will say, I think it would be wise if the Celtics kept bringing him off the bench. Like, we've talked all year about how the Celtics have the best starting five in the NBA, and they do. But if you drop Porzingis from it, it's still pretty good. Like, you still got plenty of offense. You got Tatum and Brown. You still got interior defense. Like, Al Horford is not bad. He can also stretch the floor on offense. Like, if Porzingis can be that spark plug off the bench, because that's been the biggest criticism of Boston the entire year, is that their bench sucks. If he could be a spark plug off the bench on both offense and defense, I think that's more valuable for the Celtics than if he starts.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I personally disagree. agree. I was actually surprised he didn't start. It makes sense, like in hindsight. He had missed all these games leading up to it, didn't play that entire Pacers series. He was coming back from the injury, but here's my worry with something like that. Like, obviously he was the huge difference maker. The second he came into the game, it basically just completely flipped. What if the Mavericks start out game 2, they're shooting better, they're playing better, and they build up like an 8-point lead early on before he can even check in? Like, you just got to start the game with your best 5. You end the game with your best 5. That's my theory. So I think game 2, even though it worked last game, I think you got to start him. Like, he was the difference maker. The second he came in, like I said, everything changed.
That's fair, but what if the Mavericks get out to that 8-point lead and then Sam Hauser is your spark plug off the bench?
I mean, that's just what it is. You got to play with your best 5. You can't, I don't think you can save him. You just got to go out with him. It worked all season long. I mean, I don't think you change it up now, but either way, I mean, maybe they don't need to. Now on to Jason Tatum. God damn, the dude, he was bad. It's not even like he was mid. That's not even fair to say. 16 points on 6 of 16 shooting, 6 turnovers. And we were talking before the recording, like, he felt passive, especially early on. It didn't feel like he was looking for a shot whatsoever.
There were a bunch of times watching this game where I was like, is Tatum on the floor?
Right.
He felt invisible out there. And when he was taking shots, it never really felt like he was making that big of an impact. He had one big 3 in the third quarter that got kicked to him and that put the Celtics back up 16. That was like his one big shot of the game. Other than that, dude was a ghost out there.
I said in the preview video, and I believe it, and this is proof right here, he doesn't even need to be good for them to win. Like, this is crazy that your star player, your best player, plays like that in a finals game and you still just blow the other team out easily.
I was gonna say, this is a bad day for the people on Twitter who try to defend Tatum from like the, oh, shoots whatever, 0 of 20. If Tatum did this, his team would win stuff. Like, it's a bad day for people who defend Tatum from that kind of stuff.
I mean, Jaylen Brown, like it used to be, there was Tatum as your 1 and Jaylen Brown as your 2. Now it's 1A, 1B, and who knows, maybe next year, the year after, or maybe after this series, if Brown wins Finals MVP, you can say Brown, maybe he's the 1A because
he was that tonight.
He was great. I mean, on the offensive end, 22 points, 7 of 12 shooting, extremely efficient. Like I said, in that run, he had those huge blocks. He didn't stop Luka. He wasn't gonna stop Luka, but he forced Luka into tough situations, tough moments. He was playing tough defense. That's what I'm getting at. He's just a great two-way player. I know, like, the left hand memes, sometimes he can't do that, but goddamn, he has the experience. He comes up big, and he was aggressive as hell. We talk about Tatum being passive. Jaylen Brown was not passive whatsoever.
Now on to Dallas, and we'll start with Kyrie. A night to forget, shall we say. I mean, first of all, the Celtics fans were absolutely brutal to him. He got booed basically every time he touched the ball. Even got a Kyrie sucks chant in there. Personally, I thought he would just come out on a mission because he was gonna be like, I'm gonna show all these Celtics fans who I still probably hate what they're missing out on. I mean, he just didn't have it on Thursday night. The Celtics played him tough, to be fair, but he got some pretty good looks, like pretty typical looks that I feel like he gets in a lot of his games, but 12 points on 6 of 19 shooting, didn't make a single 3. Probably the worst game he's gonna play in this series, but a brutal start.
I mean, like you said, some of those threes, you felt like, oh, he's gonna hit this, like this is open. We've seen Kyrie hit so many of these threes, and for whatever reason, they just weren't falling. I'm not concerned if I'm a Mavericks fan because he's had other games in these playoffs where he's struggled and the shot hasn't been falling and everything, and then he's bounced back and dropped like 30. So I think it's gonna be fine. But at the same time, with the way the Celtics shot today and the way they can shoot, like both Luka and Kyrie have to be on for them to beat them. Luka, for the most part, was on, at least with his scoring, but yeah, Kyrie just really wasn't. But I expect a big bounce back game in game 2 from him.
And to Luka, like you mentioned, I mean, he played pretty well, 30 points, 10 boards. Luka's problem, though, is that his standard is so ridiculously high that we look at a 30 and 10 game and we're like, why didn't you do more?
I want more.
I will say, Luka didn't look phased at all by the moment of the NBA Finals. Like, he didn't look like he was nervous or anything. And I mean, this guy was playing in environments like this in Greece when he was 19. Like, I know Boston can be rough at times, but he wasn't going to be phased.
No.
Wasn't going to be phased by that Boston crowd. And like I said, he was good, but in the third quarter, it really felt like after he hit that 3 that cut the Celtic lead down to 8 and the Celtics started to go on the run to build the lead back up, it really felt like that was a moment where he needed to step up and get a bucket just just one, you know, to stop the bleeding, and he just couldn't do it. I mean, fair play to the Celtics because they were playing great defense on him. They were running Jaylen Brown, Holiday, Derek White on him. They were rotating through guys so no one was getting tired. They were throwing some double teams at him, and even when he did get passes off to his teammates, they were swarming everyone. I mean, there was that stat going around earlier that Luka's teammates were shooting 57% on his passes in the playoffs. They were 1 of 6 today.
I mean, that's the main thing for me. Like, the scoring was fine. It was there, but the 1 assist, a playoff career low, 4 turnovers isn't crazy, but when you only get 1 assist, I mean, the thing I noticed the most is Boston, their game plan to take away like the lobs and to like guard deep on some of those pick and rolls was just incredible. Like, the lobs weren't there, and it's hard to throw a lob when you got 7'3" Kristaps guarding the rim.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they made him one-dimensional, I think was just so key because, I mean, Luka could get his, but if he's not going to get the other guys involved, then the Mavericks have no shot in this series.
And they kind of did it to everyone on the Mavericks. I mean, 9 assists as a team. Kyrie led the team. He had 2.
That is crazy.
And I mean, the rest of the Mavericks, nothing remarkable. PJ Washington was okay, 14 points on 5-11 shooting, but I mean, Maxi Kleber was getting hunted on the defensive end. Derek Lively got in foul trouble. Overall, I felt like the Mavericks kind of just had an off night shooting. I mean, they had their fair share of open shots that they just couldn't knock down. And honestly, despite the score, I don't really feel like it was a super dominant performance from the Celtics. I mean, it feels kind of weird, but it feels like neither team played particularly well. So I don't really know what to make of the final score because it feels like both teams can improve a lot.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the Celtics defensively, I think were great, and that's really the reason they won this game. But
offensively, they were okay. And the Mavericks weren't great on either end.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, like, yeah, Kristaps, Jaylen Brown were really good, but Tatum, like, played like that. Obviously, he could play much better. He could cut down the turnovers, and the Mavericks were basically just awful everywhere. Like, Luka was good with his scoring, but that's about it. Defensively, they weren't great. Offensively, maybe their worst offensive game in like 3 months or so. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing for the Mavericks. Like, Luka's gonna score. I'm sure Kyrie's gonna bounce back, but I don't know how much I trust like PJ Washington to have big games, Daniel Gafford, Derek Jones. I trust just the Celtics supporting cast players. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis to drop 20. I'm sure Derek White will get a game where he drops 20. That to me is the huge difference between these teams, but we'll have to see what happens in game 2.
That's the video, guys. What did you think of Game 1 of the NBA Finals? I'd love to know what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.